So I templated it. Like I said, is I made the template first before I started cutting out anything. Template, stinger board, cut it out using a 10-inch bandsaw. Okay. From there, I started to build up the interior part of the shield by using white open cell foam that has a lot of give to it. It's really squishy, super lightweight. Black foam that's lighter weight, but like I said, it's got this almost oily texture to it because of the covering that's on it. I don't know if you can see it. So it's got that sheen to it. So I took a sander, I sanded it off, because otherwise, if you tried to glue this to the white, it would just come off, because it would literally just take the layer of that shiny sheen. So sanded it down using an orbital sander with, I believe it was 100 grit, or something just coarse enough to scrape it off. That was it. Both sides. So whatever side it is that you're going to be putting down on the white foam, sand it, and all that. Okay? Whatever side was up, I sanded it after I had it completely tacked down to the white foam. So after I got it tacked down, then I glued it to my stinger board, and I made it so that it was roughly bigger. It was bigger than my template that I made on the stinger board. I made a ginormous rectangle, and I cut it out on my bandsaw so I could have perfectly flush edges. So then when I started putting on my edging, which is that pink stuff, that pink, high dense pink foam, I had really good edges so I could have a very nice, perfect line, okay? So that's where I started to build it, okay? So like I had mentioned earlier, so it's stinger board, white foam, black foam. I then used puzzle mat I bought at Harbor Freight. I think it was $8. Like, I don't remember what it was. Sorry, I forgot. I should have written that down. As the wood look. So I cut them into slats, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 1, 2, 3, and I think 3.5 or a 4-inch, and just made it look like it was pieces of wood slapped together on something else. Okay. I then cut them, or left them long, and then cut them to the same edging that I cut the white and black foam. Okay. That way then I had them all together, and I could slowly start putting on my edges, where like I said, I made a lip so that when I got to my shield the pink only came up so far, and I had like the wood was coming off of the shield itself. And I dapped that all. I used DAP. Literally used DAP for this whole entire project from start to finish. This is the only glue I used besides the E600, which I used to fill in the holes and the cracks and stuff, because some of the edges I tried to put together and they just didn't fit. Okay, so like up here, this is filled with that E600 because there was a gap because of the way that this edge dropped and my edge came up. So hole filled there, hole filled here, and that way then as I put the plastidip on, it had a spot to cover instead of an open hole that could easily get ripped apart. So now it's got, extra for that corner. Okay, I then, after I cut it to the shape that I wanted, I added on the edges. This one goes on my chest, so it sits like this. And I plastidiped it with spray on plastidip. I used 4 to 5 coats. I sprayed it with black, then white, black, then white, and then black, so that I could see where I missed spots each time. So after I got done with that, then I went and I started doing the paint job. So this is just, like spray paint on the edges with that silver, and then I hand painted the front. Okay. What I forgot to mention though is because this is a shield that is attached to my armor, I used a router and I routed the holes inside the white foam. I will post the video where I routed it. So then that way that this leather strap could sit flush against the stinger board without there being any gap or anything, so it can't slide back and forth. It is stuck here and around the inside of the holes that I also used shoot. I used a bit, okay? I used a 1-inch bit in my drill. I drilled the hole. I put leather around it because otherwise the stinger board will literally shred apart the leather. And that is to just, otherwise trying to change this out, you literally have to shove it through and pray that you don't just destroy the inside of that white foam. So that's what that is. This is on top of the stinger board. It's a strap with a piece of nice suede-ish like leather inside with this. This is a dippable plastidip that you will use as a 70-30 with naphthalene. Reason being is that this stuff by itself, if I put it on the shield, it will crack. It's not meant to go over large surfaces. It's a dip for a reason. So how it works is that I made the dip. I put in 70% of the, oh, it smells terrible, of the plastidip, and then I put 30% of naphthalene in it. So when I put the naphthalene in it, it literally smells like, I would say acetone. I bought both of those at, okay, this is naphthalene, Home Depot. Home Depot. Everything, plastidip, DAP, all this stuff, Home Depot. Okay, guys, it cost me like roughly $100 for all of this stuff. But I got all of the shield done with what I bought instead of having to go out and buy more stuff. So naphthalene, 30% of this, 70% of this turns into like a syrup. It needs to be a syrup. Otherwise, what's going to happen is it's going to become really brittle and it's going to start to flake off. And I coated it. So DAP the leather on top of this strap. I put on more or less, they're called like safety edges. So if the shield gets pulled off of me, it's going to rip the edges of the shield. So you can't really tell because it's black. These are there as like a safety net. So if the shield gets, I get rammed or whatever, this will pull those edges off and not the whole thing off. Safety net, okay? So I literally put that all around the edges, that 70-30 naphthalene plastidip concoction, all around the edges of my leather and the strap itself. And that way then it literally creates an extra layer of coating so that the DAP doesn't start to kind of get peeled away. So literally it's kind of like a environmental barrier, okay? So that's how that is. I put on here is, these are rivets, riveted into place. They're, brass pieces that connect to my armor. But as a whole, the shield weighs less than my red. I think I weighed it and it weighs like 20 ounces, give or take. Sucker weighs absolutely nothing. Just used it at Wolfpack, by the way. Fantastic. Great protection, literally rolled with me wherever I went. But that's how I did this, okay? From start to finish, it was a template that I made that I fit to myself, okay? I trialed it out before I cut, okay? As soon as I finished the template, I put it on that white stinger board. From the white stinger board, I started to build up the interior, which was the white open cell foam, very light, and then a slightly denser black foam with that, like I said, it has that sheen on it. Sand it off so you get a good contact with the white foam. Rough surface works better for DAP, better contact, okay? From there, I started to build up where I would start doing the detailing. Puzzle mat, cut into slats. All of this I then cut to form of my template on my bandsaw, okay? I then put the edging on, which is this pink, very dense foam, and I put that around the edges, doing a wet mold per se of dry, wet in the middle, so I get good contact, and I forced it into place by putting other pieces of foam with tension from either I have rubber bands or I used Gorilla Tape, and I forced it into its position. Like I said, on this edge, forced it into place, and I left it there overnight so it dried into that position where, again, good contact, and wet. So dry, or sticky, wet in the middle, and then the same on any other edges, okay? And mine overlapped. So this overlaps this part overlaps this edge, this whole edge overlaps this part, overlaps this, overlap. That's how I did it. So then it's constantly overlapping so there isn't one weak spot. Once I got done doing that, okay, I filled in all of the holes that I had made with this E600 that I got at Walmart. And I put it into all the holes so then I could easily, sand it, make it look nice, give a good finish using an orbital sander with different degrees of coarseness so I could get a really nice finish on the edges. And I beveled all my edges so then they looked really good and I could not get called out for bad edging. And then plastidip, 4 layers all the way around, and then I painted it. So, all right guys, if you have any questions, just let me know. I do apologize, it's not my best video or best videos, but so that's how I made a custom-made plastidip shoulder shield from start to finish. If you have any questions about materials, just let me know.